So what I'm showing at Artist Mundi is two installations of an ongoing project called Under-Writing Beirut. The first chapter is called Mathaf, which means museum, and the second chapter is called Nahr, which means the river. The idea underlying Under-Writing Beirut as a project is this notion of palimpsest, and the idea that underneath a layer, underneath the present, if you dig like an archaeologist or like an investigator, if you dig into these various layers of history, what would you find? So the first chapter, Mathaf, was around the museum, the National Museum of Beirut, and its collection. And this is a neighborhood where I live. One must say that this National Museum is located on what used to be the Green Line. So the Green Line is what used to divide Beirut, East Beirut and West Beirut during the war, 1975, 1991. And during this time, the director of the museum and its team did everything they could to protect the collection from being looted, from being damaged, etc., by pouring concrete on sarcophages, by also enwalling some pieces of some places in the museum. In this installation, you have multiple elements, and one of them is this large print called All the Objects from the National Museum of Beirut, visible on December 15, 2012. And in fact, when I was not given access to the storage and archive, but only to the visible part of the collection, and you may know that the visible part is always a tiny part of a museum, I took it literally, and I went and took a photograph of every object and every caption. And this list is about also, what is the politic of a museum? Most of these objects are Phoenician and funerary. What is a national museum in a country that doesn't really have yet a common identity, where this question is still at stake? So this image text is really almost an excess of visibility for a collection. And next to it is this secret book, Object Missing, which suggests these gaps in history where you don't know what happened to things. You don't know what happened to these objects, whether they were looted, whether they were damaged, and it has a resonance with people who have disappeared during this wars. I wanted to see other objects that were damaged by the war than the one on display, and I was only given access to one object, and it's the Good Shepherd mosaic. And that Good Shepherd mosaic, it is said that a sniper during the war had done a hole in it. On many places on that dividing, on that green line, you used to have snipers that would be placed and that would shoot, because this was also a passage point between East and West and East. So in fact, this sculpture called Object of War is an imprint of the void of the hole created by the sniper. So it's a negative of a hole. And I'm very interested in that notion of imprint as a direct record of the war. The first chapter was on the neighborhood where I live, and so I thought it would be interesting for a second chapter to work on the neighborhood where I worked. In this short video called The River, it's a one sequence shot inside the river, but one cannot understand at the beginning that it's inside the river. And with a voiceover that speaks of notions of landscape and exile. So there's three aspects that really interested me, where the imaginary landscape of that river that is there, but is also a suspended space because it's not really being used as a river. It's now a place for sewage and dump, and chemical dump and rubbish, etc. And the second thing is the social history of the river, because as of 1915, many migrants, first the Armenian fleeing the Turkish genocide, and then later the Kurds and Palestinian, and later the Syrian, came and settled on these riverbanks. And the third aspect is the gentrification of one of the area near the river, which is Jisr el-Wati, where we co-founded Beirut Art Center. I'm not a historian, but I like to borrow in my practice from different methodologies. So it could be from sociology, from archaeology, from documentary. It's really important in that project to be specific on certain location, and from these locations to look back from the present at these different layers. So in fact, yeah, every chapter is an investigation.